determine when a dog gets called up for rehoming?
Oh, I wish I had the answers to all of that. The notion, right? We are working on that. The order of greyhounds that we call them up for rehoming will depend partly on the demand, right? What happens from the point of view of people who want to rehome dogs.
But how do you know that dog is ready? It's been in a kennel situation. How do you determine that dog is ready?
We will be having, right, and it'll be at the agency's expense in the same way as at the moment. We will need to have all the dogs assessed, right? Our hope is that we can do a basic assessment early on, right across the whole population, so that the green, amber, red basic rating, right, that we are looking at having a team of people that can actually go around the kennels to ascertain that, so that we have got a much better feel for what the population is, and then the decision will have to be made, and it hasn't been made because it's one of the problems at the moment, and that is, so do we rehome the easy dogs first, right, or do we want to be moving, right, a mixture of dogs through? And the other issue that we'll be looking at is, so is there a minimum viable number of dogs? If you are down to 10 dogs, is it better for us to rehome those, right, as a priority? Right? And I can't give you the answer to that at the moment. We're still, right, and that will partly depend on the owner. Yeah, I can see those two names for those two hands.
Sorry.
Doesn't take much.
Are you two?
Yeah, shall we move on to the next? We'll move on to the next one. Just been really patient waiting.
I don't know if you can help me, it might be Edward. Who did you speak to for the daily rate? Was it licensed people or was it our governing body or our board? How did you come up with the daily rate? You said you were given it from Greyhound.
No, I said we've looked at it from a number of points of view. Yes, we have talked to some LPs. We have talked, right, we have got information out of GRNZ in terms of courses. Edward would point out that his calculation when he gave it to us came up with $30 a day. Right, we have, and we have done, right, and he would argue that it should be higher than that now. I'm not trying to, right?
I just wonder because I don't know any licensed person
So,
being spoken to, sorry. And Edward, I thought New Zealand Greyhounds would have.
In regard to your daily rate, I think there shouldn't be a regional thing, but you have to consider what is going to be a reasonable rate. Because come 1st of August, if you want us to sign contracts, and we don't sign them, you're going to have 1,800 dogs on your doorstep. So you have to come up with a reasonable rate that people are going to accept.
Yeah. Right. In strict legal terms, your 1,800 dogs will be on your doorstep because I haven't actually. But it is my job to find some solution. I accept that, not mine on my own. Right. So yes, we're not trying to screw you in this. Right? I'm just trying to bring. I know.
You might say that, but you just said before that you're trying to not make it profitable for us. So you're making it the bottom line.
No, what I'm saying is that I am not, you're right, I'm not trying to make a profitable business out of this. On the other hand, right, we do need to provide a fair income for the work that we are asking you to do.
And we need to provide our staff at least the
Yep.
minimum wage.
Yep, yeah, no, look, I'm not denying that you've got staff costs in that, and those, and the amount of staff resource that needs to go into looking after and exercising the dogs, etc., is a totally legitimate part of the costs that we have to cover.
So we've just got the ones here.
Also, have you taken into account while you've been working out your daily costs? Greyhounds eat far more than the average large dog. The cost of feeding a greyhound is way higher, and I know that for a fact because I breed retrievers, which are another breed of large dog.
I have taken, I've talked to, it's our vet people and things like that tell me how much the dogs eat. I believe you in terms of they eat a lot, they seem like big dogs. But yes, it has been based on advice on how much they eat, right? But I accept that we do need to be able to show, right, that the rate that we offer, right, I am going to have to be able to show the minister and therefore the public the basis on which this is expected to cover the costs, right, the legitimate costs that you need to look after these dogs in order to ensure the welfare of these dogs, right?
And earn an income because we won't be able to work at the same time.
Well, this will be your work. So yeah, you know, like I said, right?
Right in that case, yeah.
We've got a question as well inside there.
Did you want to finish on that first, because I wanted to go back to some questions.
No, we can go to somewhere else.
You say over 3 years the dogs are going to be rehomed. What I want to know is what will happen to all the ones where people have changed circumstances. Presently those dogs come back and can be rehomed again. Will this continue? Because you're talking about a large number of dogs and this will go on for years.
Yeah, we are talking with the rehoming agencies in terms of their rehoming policy. And most of them do currently have one and expect to continue to have that basis. We're certainly not excluding that. And so legislatively, if we haven't successfully done this in 3 years, there's a possibility that we can ask them to extend the program for another couple of years, right? So it's not right, but I'm saying that our objective will be to try and do it more quickly rather than more slowly, because nobody.
I think the lady's question was more to go with the fact that the dogs then go to a home
Yep.
for 3 years and then come back.
Yep, and as I said, the rehoming agencies are all
Yeah. But if you
currently
only-
have a policy of redoing that, and
So theoretically, the life of the dog should
yeah,
be.
right, but that will then be an issue for the rehoming agencies, which they are accepting as part of their responsibility, right? So that's how they want to operate.
Can I just ask, either Edward or Darren might be able to say this, how much do the organisations get per day per dog, and what else, what other things do you pay?
So I'm probably a better one to do. So in terms of the gap, we'll go back. Kiwi and Mayhounds are largely volunteer based, and we pay them an annual donation or grant basically. Gap, we provide a bulk amount per annum, so it's not based on how many dogs are in foster, but we do have targets within that. Night Rave, we pay them a similar allocation, but we also then, they have kennelling where they provide other services as well, so that's on top of that. But there's no set amount per day. And just to clarify the questions, the calculations we've done were never, I think the $20, Heather, might be the live-in costs divided by the number of dogs, which is not a fair comparison. The paper we put to the MAC committee last April, the estimate we did was that it should be $30 per day, and that was April 25. So I would argue strongly now, we're a year later, there's been inflation and fuel prices, that the rate should be around 35 at a minimum. So that's my recommendation. Clearly they have to make the decision, but at no stage have Darren and Zed recommended anything under 30.
Just one quick comment. So there's been comparisons about boarding kennels. So people looking after these dogs are going to have to do more work than a boarding kennel is expected to do. There's a lot of that preparation has to happen before great mates. So if you're looking at boarding kennel rates, potentially there's more work to be done on top of that. So
Transporting dogs with DC same as well on top of that too.
Yeah, you've got to remember we're rural.
Small dogs.
Rural,
Yeah,
so
no, and certainly in terms of transporting, if dogs have to be transported any significant distance, then I would expect that to be an agency
And what
cost.
about, is the worming included in the vet cost, or are we paying that, because that's getting up to $14, or 10 to 14, depending on whether you buy bulk, with for worming tablets, it's actually, you know, I know I spend a lot on, bulk dogs.
I haven't got my vet beside me, so the particular worming, I'll defer and come back to you on
If you get it
that.
bulk and send it out to
Yeah.
people, then we would do it, but that's probably the best
Yeah.
option for you to consider.
Yeah, okay, I mean, except that I just,
Yeah.
I don't wanna say one thing and find out.
Yeah, no, it's just one of those things that
Yeah.
it does add up, the cost of those things every 3 months.
Yeah, no, I accept that. Any other questions?
Just a
You
comment.
send out emails to some trainers, what's in the emails? Why have some trainers received them and others haven't?
And that, sorry, if some people haven't, and that I have simply taken the list, the email list came from GRNZ initially.
Could be done to John.
No, I think to clarify probably what that is, Dave, they've emailed everyone, and those that replied that they were happy to be emailed would have received the emails. They did ask for a sample of our small, medium and large trainers that they wanted to talk to one-on-one, just as a working example of a discussion around the rates. So that's why some people may have been contacted, and that was purely around the sample size, to try and consult around what the rate should be. So that's why some may not have been contacted.
Okay, but if we haven't got an email address, you know, or if you haven't had anything, then if we can make sure that me or Christine, who's run away, oh no, there she is in fact, right, that we're not trying to, have separate.
Yeah, sorry, it seems obvious to me that the payment really should be linked to the cost of keeping a dog in a boarding kennel. Because of all the extra work involved, even at a boarding kennel rate, you're going to be getting a good rate. Now, I understand why Winston wants to keep the costs down, but he's also got to accept this is a short-term contract. So, you know, he has to be prepared to pay for this. And basically, I'd go back to him and say, look, we've got to pay the equivalent of a boarding kennel rate, and you need to get the gorse out of your pockets, Winston.
Interesting conversation for me to have with him, but
Yeah, he needs to be prepared to spend the money.
as I said, that's why we're working on what the budget needs to be.
Put another hand up in the back.
We've got one over here which we haven't heard from before we.
Yeah, I just wanna know, so, you know, we're gonna get reimbursed for some pieces. Who's gonna be paying for the, coats and things these greyhounds need for the winter, when they have their rain jackets and bits and pieces? Who's gonna be covering the cost of those? And where's that money gonna come from? Every greyhound needs a coat for the colder weather.
Well, that's another reason to pay a higher daily rate, to cover everything, you know, a simple one-off cost, same across the country, and work on rehoming those dogs as fast as possible.
But, I honestly
Commission days is
can't
not
give
gonna
you the answer about, you know, whether
It shouldn't come out of our pockets. It's a welfare issue, dogs got to be walked.
has the dog not already got a coat?
Well, they destroy them, they do wear out, so
Same
we do
with
have to,
bedding.
we have to return, we have to replace
How long
them.
are you planning on giving us a contract for?
Sorry?
You said it's going to take like 2 years to bring home the majority. How long is the contract going to be?
Well, there's a couple of options again, which I'm interested to get. So, obviously, the contract needs to last as long as you're looking after dogs. Right. The issue which we've just been talking with Christine about this morning is our thinking originally was that therefore we simply have a contract for however many dogs you've got, and we adjust the payment as your dog numbers adjust. On the other hand, in the discussion yesterday, I'm thinking, hang on, maybe we need to give you more certainty than that, so that, and so what I'm playing with is maybe we should have a sort of a 6-month contract, which is then renewed, right, at a predictable time. And I can see that from a business point of view, but then the issue comes, does come back to what you people think. That's easy if you've got 200 dogs, right? And where my head is confused is, okay, so you get down to 6 dogs. Is that, should we be carrying on paying some people 6 dogs per day, or at that stage should we move those 6 dogs to a facility which has already got spare space and more dogs in it? Is there a minimal viable? I'm not suggesting this from the start because people will have whatever dogs they've got right now. But as we go forward, should we be looking at a sort of minimum viable, but at which stage we accept that we move those dogs either directly into the rehoming program or to another kennel?
I would argue against that because someone with 6 dogs is going to get them ready faster than what someone with 200 is.
Well, that's what, certainly right at the start, but if you started off with 20 dogs and now you're down to 6, is that, I mean 6 I made up, but is there a number where actually it'd be better to move them across? No?
But moving them across, I mean, you have them in your own kennel, then they've got to go to the GAP program, and then they've got to go possibly to foster homes, and then they've got to go to their home. So why move them?
Yeah, well, no, I mean, as I said, I'm heavy at the moment. We were thinking of the fact that we just adjust the payment, as the dogs go down. But the question was raised in my mind yesterday, in this sort of discussion, about in fact whether from a business planning point of view,
What about the people's point of view?
yeah, well, that's partly, giving that certainty and things. But if we're saying that, what,
From a business point of view, I can get 6 dogs ready for rehoming faster than what somebody can with 50. So you should keep the person with 6 dogs active.
yeah, but does that mean that you would argue that we should therefore let you get them ready fast and therefore move them off your,
Yeah, and then replace them if you have to. Because you're going to get 6 dogs more socially ready than what you will with 50 dogs or 100 dogs. Even.
You would have this information already if you went to the rehoming agencies and said whereabouts they're getting all the dogs from, how fast.
yes, but where they're getting the dogs from at the moment is different than the problem I've got. I know where they're getting from at the moment and where they get dogs that are easier to rehome, etc. Right? My challenge is not that. My challenge is as I said, let's have let's get some publicity up so that we actually get more people wanting dogs. So all I'm concerned about is, so we've now got a whole lot more dogs available for adoption, for rehoming.
Can you guarantee that no dogs will get put down if you haven't rehomed them within 2 or 3 years?
Certainly, yeah. There is absolutely, I can't guarantee that no dog will ever get put down, right?
The public will find
Right,
that out,
but there is no provision there is no cut-off point that says if there's still 50 dogs left, that's it, right? I can guarantee that.
When you might take them?
Sorry?
When you might take them?
When he might take them, exactly. He'll be sitting around, he'll be with his feet up by then, and another 3 years
Go
on.
to the back, yeah, she's
Put them on his knees.
Yep.
So we've got 3.5 months left of this racing ability for these dogs.
Yep.
You've come up with nothing, no disrespect. When do you think we'll even be offered a contract? So all of these people in this room, so we know what we're doing, not just for us, for our families, and number one, our dogs.
Yep. As I said, I would certainly hope to have a contract out to you within the month.
So we have 2.5 months to make a decision whether we want to accept a contract, and if we don't, what is our legal step? When you say that you take over on the first of August. You just don't get into a law to see what a legal step is.
Well, sorry,
Yes, so 3.5 months, I don't think it's fair, and then to wait another month, we have a 2.5 month decision frame on the worst thing that's not
2
probably having
years.
a lot of pay.
After 2 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and this is livelihoods, this is people's lives, mental health. Okay, we can say we've got mental health on the ground. Sorry,
I can't see, sorry, I'm actually just stepping around because you're hiding behind, I mean, I can't see you through it.
I'm not one for hiding.
No, I was just trying to see through the.
I just find 2.5 months, if we've got to wait another month, is unacceptable. And to come here today and to get offered what we've been offered, it's, you can't even look after the dog's welfare. Dog coats are paramount for welfare. A worming tablet's $13. Are we going to bill you for them? That's welfare. That's not our responsibility. You're saying you're taking over welfare. You have to pay right down, $20 a day is not going to cut it, even $28 a day. Especially for people paying staff.
Heather, can I ask why back in April last year, where it was discussed between GRNZ and you guys and a rate was given from GRNZ, why has it taken till now, 3.5 months before closure, to be discussing this? What's been the hold-up?
Well, the hold-up has been that actually the decision was only formally taken last month.
You
Seriously?
You could have still made progress with
No, I couldn't. I couldn't enter into any arrangement, right?
No, that's rubbish.
Okay.
Oh, yeah,
You may think so, but at the time, right, in that period, remember, we had all sorts of things going on. We had legal cases which could have put a stop to all of this.
But you still
Right.
could have had a draft written up.
Yeah.
A conversation at
It would have
least.
cost nothing to
Okay.
have done some work on that. Instead of leaving us in the shit, because now this is all getting thrust on us, as we're about to lose our incomes, our way of life and everything, you're giving us 2.5 months. It's disgraceful, absolutely disgraceful behaviour.
Failure to have a plan is planning to failure.
We're good honest Kiwis and we've been treated like shit the whole way through. This country has become a bloody disgrace, and so is the government.
Treated like criminals.
No, sinners.
We're innocent, hard-working people. Why have we been treated so badly?
This goes right back to the government doing it 18 months. Look at anywhere else in the world, if they're going to be trying to ban greyhound racing, they're doing it over a 4 or a 5 year period. So I think that needs to go back to the government and say, why is it such a short time?
Because there's an election in November.
And why is it only our code?
Yeah, I'm sorry, but
We
none of
can't
these
do
things
anything, it's
do I have
in
any
law,
say in,
unfortunately.
right?
They didn't listen to us, the select committee, we asked for an extension, we did all that, we've done everything we can to try and change it, and it's
They've been shut down by two people running on this.
So sorry, to go back to your question about running as a business, I think it would be fair to pay people a month in advance, but also people getting paid for a month in advance of whatever they have in their care at that time. So say, for example, like Johnny, who's got 200 dogs, say, for example, 20 dogs get called in during that month. He doesn't need as many staff anymore. If every trainer has a month's warning and a month's payment ahead of time, they can plan per month as opposed to ringing up and saying, oh, we're calling in 10 dogs next week, and then that trainer then having to tell their staff, oh, you don't have a job next week because you've got these dogs. So you need to be paying at least a month or two ahead of time to allow for that wind down time for that trainer and that staff member.
That's where we need just about a
Yeah,
year's contract with staff.
and that's, I don't disagree, and that's where I'm just thinking about, in fact, whether, in fact, especially for for the larger ones, you know, I don't see any reason why the initial contract can't be for much longer than that, right? We're not gonna, if you've got 200 dogs, we're not gonna rehome them in the first 6 months, right? You know, so we don't need to be renegotiating, you know, that. So that's just what I'm trying to work through, that sort of schedule of how we actually have as much certainty in a situation where there is none, and as much flexibility to move that through. Because I am going to have to be accountable for ensuring that we are not continuing to pay, forever for dogs which have already been
So we've just got a
rehomed.
question at the back there?
Sure have. Yep.
Yeah, the Greyhound Race in New Zealand gave you a proposal in April last year that was totally 40 million, which included a payment of $30 a day to people. We're saying that that amount of $30 a day is too much. Yet the amount that we've asked the government for to do the project is 60 million. Where's the 20 million?
We haven't asked the government yet, but, right,
The government's directed it from the TAB's funds. The amount that you budgeted was 60 million. Where is the 50 million at $30 a day has been up to these people?
yeah, well, there are a number of costs which would be fair to say were not included in the transition plan that GRNZ gave to us. And so,
That money's from the
No,
government.
just to clarify, that was in relation to rehoming
Yep,
only, not
exactly.
the other shutdown costs. So the rehoming
Right, so
costs